And let's just say, basically, you're making hummus concrete in your gut. Oh, hello. So, as you join me at the end of my pier, basically fishing my fish with an arm, because it's a thing, I thought I'd just basically have a little wander around my little place away from home. This is Playa Bonito. That's right, Playa Bonito. Interested vagants should apply now. Own security devices. It's a place of wonder and splendor, a place of bounty, a place of abundance. Anyway, we're not looking at that today. We're going to be looking at Vulcanus. Excuse the obvious little childish joke there. So Vulcanus represents one of the places in my map, my world, where I think it's rather beautiful. I think this was the first beautified place I did, and I rather like it. I think there's definitely something about it that I think just works quite well. Let us dive into it, because we are going to do a retrospective of the Vulcanus blueprint book, available now. Those that are interested, you can go to the Discord. You can basically beg and plead and borrow. No joke, it'll be linked there. You can also just look in the description of this video and you'll probably find it. And this is really an introduction into cellular manufacturing for those that are actually interested and bothered by it. So let us begin now. So let's look. So really, the basis for this was to do sort of mini little cells. So if I just zoom in on an empty cell, here you can see the design principles of what we were basically trying to do was really have something compact. So you would have an input and you would have an output. You would have a left to right or right to left delivery of materials that then would be transformed, upscaled and converted into something more splendid and precious. So for example, oil, and in this, in fact, this is coal liquefaction. So we have here coal and calcite being dropped into machines. The machines then do their wonderful jiggery pokery, wonderful magic that then in this case produces heavy oil. And then we do stuff with that. There you go, technical, I know. And we'll look at this, but that's the drive behind it. So for green chips, for example, we just wanted to have the base components delivered. It then converted, refined, delivered, signed, sealed, delivered, so that you then effectively have an output, basically. So, it's not always left to right. Sometimes it's right to left, just to mix things up. So for red chips here, that's what we've done. So that is the principle. Now, the way these cells work is the idea was to have something off the main bus. So you've got your main bus here, your railway, let's say. And the idea is that it would come off the railway through these little, I think they're quite sweet, the little kind of loops that seem to look rather nice. They're individually signaled, so just the whole thing can only one train pass through. So hopefully that makes sense. And it then was a real kind of mission just to try and fit everything within the grid, the cell. So that's the principle. Why did I do it this way? Well, Vulcanus, when you land, is a giant volcano. You're on the side of a giant volcano, and pretty much not a lot you can do with it. I think this was the giant volcano that I landed around, and I turned it into an evil layer. We did try putting sharks with freaking laser beams on their head within the lava. They melted, so it didn't really work. But the idea is, as you see, it's supposed to be that you land near the side, or you land basically in a very difficult terrain. Here is where you unlock cliff explosives, and then from that point you're laughing. But also elevated rails become a real thing with this. Now, the way I designed this, let's start from the front, is I wanted it to be like I dropped an orbital slab from orbit. That makes no sense. But you see, the idea is you had this kind of just plinth. I was thinking of Dune. So if you've ever seen Dune or watched the film or read the books, the Arrakeen, which is the city, is kind of built on the side of a giant mountain, I believe. It's like in a horseshoe sort of thing. But the idea was it's just a huge slab of stone that the worms can't obviously get to. So the idea was here is, let's just assume we have a very stable ground here. So we built on, this slab. And obviously I numbered it slab 1. The idea was to have slab 2, slab 3, and we may do that, but at the moment I've honestly not returned to this world in a great many years. So this is to be done. And then from that, really, the machines kind of just sort of bridge away from it. So we had really the In fact, that's jumping ahead slightly. So we had foundries. That's obviously the first thing you would probably say about Vulcanus is its unique selling point is that it can pretty much make in unlimited iron and copper. And you have our byproduct of stone, but that's fine. You just basically dump it back into the lava, and I guess it just recycles it in some way, question mark. So this works quite well. And same with iron, you're basically producing something, and then you're routing it through to make the things that you need. So to be honest, production on Vulcanus, it is the easiest planet by a long way, because you can just make anything here that requires your base components, which is great. There's no water, so you have to create water, but we'll look at that in just a moment. But you then have things like sulfuric acid, which burns worse than my pee after that date with your mum. So obvious joke here, and I think that's the thing, is there's sort of different resources in abundance and others that are not. So for example, with water, just because that's a quick easy thing to do, is you actually burn calcite, and you create a steam from basically burning. The acid is burning calcite that releases steam, which you then condense down back into water. So that's kind of, again, quite clever really, but we're jumping ahead. So the idea is that you have your foundries that then basically run the beginning of your empire. And then what you have is the ability to then load things like molten iron, molten copper, as you can see here, onto trains and then start to push them around. And we'll come back to that. We'll come back to the way station there as well. So let's maybe start with the basics. So green circuits, if I go to my blueprint, within the cell book, we have all the things that you could possibly need to create your cell base. So you have the cell blueprint there, you have 2 and 4. So if you're interested in doing like a little stack, you can do that. I think ultimately, wrong planet. I would love to have gone like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and just have one bus. I think I probably, in fact, I vouchsafe and commit to you, good sir, that is what we're going to do. We're going to transform the face of this planet into something more splendid. But anyway, grand plans aloft. We have some railway stuff there, so that's basically the beginnings of kind of the basics. So here. Just a quick note on this, because this is probably something that you will find, is you can have 3 stations here, but you just have to think about how you unload things. Because for example, if I were to have a 3rd station here, firstly it blocks the loop. So if you have 2 trains there and 1 train that needs to deliver there, it has to go round to get to there. So always, you don't want a blockage. Believe me, when I was about 25, I suddenly decided that it'd be a really good idea to eat loads of hummus and crisps. As in, like, go to Costco, buy as many as you can physically carry in a trolley, and then eat them. I think I was going through something at the time. I just had a breakup, so maybe that's what it was. But basically, my whole intestinal system just stopped. And let's just say, basically, you're making hummus concrete in your gut. Not fun. It was a blockage that I will never forget. There is a much worse story, and I'll probably save that for members only, hint, hint. Because the story, how I fixed the problem is not something for an advertised video. It's something for another time. Anyway, I digress. Never mind. So the idea is you have to leave some space for the trains to kind of whip around. So you'll notice each one has somewhere. Don't think that's a stop. Oh no, see, that's clever. I forgot I did that. So they're all basically doing. They're all having space to move. The train system is 1-to-1 mostly. There are a few that are 2-to-1 just because they're double-headed trains. I think there's an example of that somewhere here. Here we go. Oh no, we never. I lie. We never did double-headed trains. There you go. So great, just 1-to-1, nice and simple. The idea again was for speed. They move really quickly. So if I just go whoosh, let's just follow this little buddy for a while. They move pretty swift. This sort of rail network I think is quite nice. I would love to actually see a bit more stuff in the rail network, if I'm honest, because at the moment it does feel like you should have space trains, but that's just me. So there we go. That's green circuits here. So for the start there, because that's nice and easy, just copper and iron dropped into the refineries. Off they go. They're beaconed, but again, there's not a high level of quality here. You don't even have to have a quality here at all, because literally everything else I think is pretty much basic. It's just because you make foundries here that we've actually upgraded those, but generally everything is basic setting. Now the thing is, you can just scale this. See, this is where you don't need necessarily legendary, you just basically need to scale. So you could have 10 that do exactly the same thing, 10 trains for each copper, 10 for iron, and then 10 delivery trains. So you can literally scale it based upon the cell, and that's the design of it. So for example, here we're making engines because for some reason we need engines. Same process, but in this case it's just iron, creating what, pipes, cogs, and steel. That then goes into a very standard, basic set of factories that could produce then the information there, or rather the thing now. I think we do advanced somewhere. Let's have a quick look. There we go. So we probably should have, woulda, coulda put this next to the other one. I think there's a bit of reorganization to do here, but again, given that we have quite a lot of full chests, I don't know if I could be bothered, but same process here, but again we had to extend it, so that's why this is probably why it's here. It's because we actually needed 3 things. We need the engines, the chips, and then lube, because as your mum keeps telling me, lube is important, which is maybe an insult now I think about it, but anyway. So there you go. So, and again, it still needs the passing loop so it can connect here, and then, you know, as it leaves it goes off again. I mean, it's not the most efficient design. I never said this was efficient. I think it just looks rather splendid. We have plastic, nice and simple. I think I probably did elongate this a bit, but then I realized it never filled because there's only really a set amount of coal coming through. It just works. So 3 or 6 rather is all you need with the beacons. You could get rid of the beacons maybe and just have it looking a bit nicer. That would be splendid. Red chips, sort of same, you know, delivering the green, delivering the plastic. We then have just some train deliver. Oh no, so what we've done here, this is clever, is we've taken from the adjacent station that basically just pulls out the copper. So you don't need to put the copper one on this one. Be mindful of that, because you don't need to. If we'd have needed to, we'd have just put another loop in here, because you see there's room for it, but we didn't need to. And then blue chips and so on. So you're kind of getting the idea of how this works. We then have power. So power at the moment on Vulcanus is really just all about solar. There's no point having anything but solar, to be honest. But where needed, we did decide to put so that as night arrives, because they come out mostly at night, we basically have just turbines that run off this steam, which runs off calcite, because guess what? Oh, sorry, wrong one. We have an awful lot of calcite to burn. There's just like huge amounts of it, so might as well burn it for fuel, which is definitely worth it. And again, we've done a clever thing here. We didn't need to double up on the sulfuric acid train, because that goes one way and it goes the other. So hopefully you can see that there. Rather splendid, I think you are nodding wisely saying. So you can do so much with these loops. You can, you know, piggyback them and make them adjacent, and then in this case I just put them within a bigger loop. But I think having done this, I would not have done that. I'd just put them in sort of towers maybe, and then just have nice sort of blades, you know, the sort of blade approach. Anyway, let's look at oil. So oil, again, let's just go to the blueprints. So oil is captured here. So we have, now the way I did oil is it's actually a 3-part piece. You've got part 1, part 2, and part 3, or rather that way around. Let's just do it the right way around. So part 1 is the heavy oil. You then crack that into light oil and petroleum, or gas, as I believe Americans call it, although it's not a gas. So figure that one out. And then you have fuel production here. So the way I've done that in the grid is you have here the heavy oil, and I've just done these rather nice sort of splendid pipes, which do obviously run through tribal land, and then basically just produce, you know, all the various things. You see they're nice and structured. They look rather splendid. If I go to the map, I'll keep doing that. If I go to the map, you can see the grid, the network, little coloured lines, and then for things like light oil, it goes over here, produces the rocket fuel, which is useful. And then here it produces lube. So we have lube then being pumped down in an industrial quantity that your mum probably uses into the factories and so on. And then we also have water. So water here, this one tiny little water station here is producing all of the water needed for the entire base, and even delivers it as well. So you can see water is then being driven round. So that kind of is how the oil works. Any questions on that, post in the comments, let me know. But you can see how it works. It's kind of 1, 2, and then you have a railway, and then 3. But you probably could incorporate it into 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, so on. Right, we've looked at the advanced motors. I don't think we need to worry too much about that. Let us now work down the shaft, like your dad does. So basically here we have carbon. Now I just make carbon because I don't really want an orbital structure in space doing it, and to be honest, I kind of wanted to. It just made an easy decision to do it. It produces carbon at a pretty quick rate, although as you can see here, not quick enough, so we need to beacon that needs a bit of love, but it's nice. I like this one. We then go into the more kind of exotic things that we do. So we mine raw tungsten. That is being delivered into, in this case, tungsten carbide, and that's where the carbon is coming. So you can see the carbon is sort of stacked up here, and then that is producing tungsten carbide, which I believe, yes, it ships here. So we've done a clever thing here. We've got like kind of an offload, the onload, the output, the input. So I quite like that. That works quite well. Where it gets more complicated, you can do this, but again, I would reference the blueprints are all here. You can see in front of your eyes, they are all there. We didn't concrete this because I quite like Vulcanus non-concreted. Same with tungsten bar, is it plate? There we go. It's not, although it's not a plate, it's an I-beam. But hey, who's being pedantic? I'm not. I quite like this. This is quite a nice little weaving of belts, and it seems to work quite well. Same process again here. We needed a bit of iron, and that's worked quite well. We then have low density structures. So nice and simple, plastic in. We then have our copper, iron, and really just a quite straightforward, simple factory. Not a fan of this, if I'm honest. I would probably do this differently, but I think it looks rather nice. I don't think the beacon per sort of factory works. It looks a bit dumb. I'd have just pushed these out a bit, pushed that in a bit, and blah, blah, blah. Now, I have gone with legendary substations here, but you know, you could just use normal substations and squeeze them in. Again, joke about your mum there. So let's move to the final one. So we then have a few little kind of stacks here in the shaft. We have the science. So science is then just receiving everything. So it is very much a kind of receiving train network. So once you've set it up, you know that you're just going to have X drop off. If I just show you, ignore all those. So you see it's, you know, it's pick up, drop off, pick up, drop off. I quite like that system. I would recommend that system, in fact. Where you have any kind of errata or irregularities, you can then add them in. And you can see here we've got one that just needs to be deleted. So that produces science at a very quick rate indeed. Additional power, so you can just keep plugging the power in. Additional cells. We then have the beginning of the quality discussion, the quality journey. So here we are making tungsten carbide with a view to basically upcycle it. That's all it does. This is literally wasting tungsten carbide in recyclers, and I bet they're, oh my god, they're not even very good quality. Right, we need to rectify this travesty right now. Do you have quality beacons? Yes, you do. Go to Vulcanus right now. My base of beauty. Fly my winged monkeys. Because that is not going to stand. I cannot believe how much tungsten we must have lost, because that's been like that for weeks and weeks. Same process, I believe, somewhere here. So here we're doing it for the plate, or the beam, it really is. But again, same. Oh no, this one we're doing slightly differently. So we're actually just recycling the underground belts, because for some reason, I think I read somewhere that actually that gives you legendary stuff like his. So that's quite good. Again, very wasteful, but it seems to work. Here we have the appropriate level. Do we have any in here? No. Do we have any quality? Oh, we do, 137. Never mind, Snowflake, we did not need you. Is that a workable thing? Yes. Let's just, I'll show you quickly. Let's just do 250. Let's just pick him up. Oh my gosh, he's slow. Do you have a roboport? Now, where is my legendary? Every planet should have a legendary. Is it already? Is it that one? Boop. Nope. Is it that one? No. Never mind. Right, let's assume he's got some bots within him. And let's just, I think we can use the upgrade planner here. Let's try it. No, it didn't work. Let's just, oh, did I use the wrong one? My bad. Good sir, my bad. There we go. Boom. So that immediately, if we just go to, what are we making? We're making tungsten carbide. Tungsten. So you can see here, basically across like 10 minutes, we're making nothing. I think now that will elevate significantly because we've got better quality modules in. Anyway, so continuing our blueprint journey. The book remains available to you here. So you have your rails. This is the same as the previous one. These are obviously just legacy generic ones. I don't know where I got them, so apologies if you made them and they're yours and I'm literally using them. Apologies. Just drop me a note and I shall make sure you get credit in some form. Maybe a nice quiche in the post will be sent to you. Some bits of bobs here, but most of it is in the cell bit here. So here you have obviously what we've just looked at. We've got the various things. Some drop-off stations. So obviously because sulfuric acid is being made, there's not much point like making it. It's just in the ground. So we just pump it out. So I've just built some sort of pick-up and drop-off stations there. And then we have some sort of science ones. So for the parts for sites, I'll just show you where they look in a minute. I think that's probably it. So if I just show you this, so this is where we have the things being delivered to make the cargo rockets. Not needed. Oh wow, wow, just wow. I'm looking at those quality modules, those productivity modules, and making me cry. And then we have the majority of the base. In fact, I probably should move everything here really, but there we go. We have the delivery. So this is where we have a delivery sort of crew silo, whatever you call it, logistic hub that is then putting onto belts, and then that gets dropped into the base, and then this drives a very short bot journey to basically produce everything. We have a recycling center here because seriously we have so much stuff that if we want to recycle stuff we can basically just drop it in here. And then we're making some bits, so obviously some factories here. These need to be updated to the new, so you see that's the new design there because it produces a full stack. Doesn't just produce one. See that? That's ridiculous. That's insulting to me. So we need to update all of those, but I haven't included blueprints for that. This was an upcycling attempt that I tried. I probably wouldn't recommend this now because you're better off just building legendary ones. I think that's what we do, in fact, but really, yeah, you don't really need this. But this was how we used to do quality upcycling, and gosh, it took a long time, and it wasn't very effective. And then here I just have some things. So we've got obviously all of our things here, so I think we've produced quite a few mines now, so, and then we've got foundries here, so that's it. It's pretty good if I say so myself. I quite like it. I think it's a different take on the usual bases that I've done, but I would highly recommend it. So if you're interested in getting this blueprint book in your midst, then please join the Discord, or just go to the description of this video, download it. But you can join the Discord as well if you wish. And you know, hopefully you find some errors in it and point and laugh and tell me how terrible I am at this game, which is permissible. I will allow it. Hope you enjoyed that. See you next time.